two first got to know each other, and can you remember when you first met?
Yeah, I can. Spike, can you? I remember it
I remember
very.
seeing you on Broadway in a play. I don't know if I came backstage, but your memory's
No,
better than mine. Go ahead.
you didn't. You didn't come backstage. The word, the word was Spike was in the house. It was my callback audition for Malcolm X in New York. That's probably the first time I actually laid eyes on Spike and was in in his immediate presence, and it was the
So the
rehearsal
first
hall.
callback was with Robbie Reed alone?
The first callback was who?
With Robbie Reed alone.
No, it was not. No, 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 that's not what happened. What happened, I was working in Northern California. I got a call to come down to Los Angeles to meet you. And when I walked into the room, no Spike.
What was I doing in LA anyway? But go ahead.
Well, who knew? Anyhow, it was the young man who used to work with Robbie Reed, whose name I cannot remember. He was like her assistant or casting associate. He was there. And I did a reading on camera for him, but then I said, I want to meet Spike. So when I came back to New York, I went in and read for Spike, and I read with Denzel, and this was on Malcolm X. That was the first time. That's the short version.
So you played West Indian Archie, and then you went on to play Woody Carmichael in Crooklyn, which is one of my favorite movies of yours,
Sure.
Spike.
He played my father, Bill Lee.
Right. So why was he the right guy to play that character, to play your dad?
The right guy. I mean, I don't know. I have, intuition. So when I cast people, they're the right person for the part.
I got to add, it was such a after West Indian Archie, which is a completely different kind of person, for Spike to call me and say, man, I want you to play Woody in this Crooklyn, was a complete, almost a 360. So at that point, I'm not saying that I kind of deconstructed it in these kinds of terms, but it was really affirming, because at that point, what Spike is telling me is, I think you're a good enough actor, even though you played this Jamaican man in this Jamaican number runner in this one film. I think that you have the ability to play, this musician, this New York-based musician. So it was really affirming for me that he called me up and asked me to do that.
Hey baby, what you know good? I'm just sitting back like you know I would. Yeah. Boys hell. Ha! When will it end? When will people start getting together again?
So Spike, talk about working with Calvin Wilmot, who you've worked with on several films now, including the Oscar-winning screenplay for Black Klansman. How did you guys develop this story over what kind of period? What's your method of working together?
We just do a lot of talking. We share ideals. A lot of times we're not together. Kevin lives in Kansas. He's a tenured professor at the University of Kansas. We knew that it'd been long overdue for a film to deal with this immoral war from the eyes, lips, spirit, and soul of the Black soldiers who fought in this moral war. And then I also knew that Marvin Gaye's album, What's Going On, would be the spine of it. The album came out in 1971, the height of the war, this immoral war, and a lot of the songs do, particularly with the Bloods coming back from Vietnam. We're like, war is hell. When will it end? When we all get back together again. Marvin Gaye, he had an older brother named Frankie who did 3 tours in Vietnam as a radio operator. So he's writing letters back to his brother, and I think they had an impact on him.
But this is such an unusual movie in the way that it plays with time and space. In other words, you start with this contemporary group of Vietnam vets, and then you move back and you go back into this travel situation where they go to Vietnam, and then you flash back in time, and you've got comedy, tragedy, war, all mixed up in this very elaborate story that is centered on this extraordinary character of Paul. How did you figure that out in terms of what you were doing? Because that's not a conventional setup at all.
What was that word?
Like,
Whoa. Conventional? Now you know that word gets you in trouble right there.
Them's fighting words.
You're getting me mixed up with somebody else.
I was about to say that's an oxymoron.
That's
the word
right.
conventional
That's right.
and Spike Lee do not really belong
Exactly.
in the same sentence.
I just don't have the mindset that I should put creative handcuffs on me. And I'm not saying you just throw shit in a pot and you stir it around as a gumbo, but it takes great actors, number one, to melt. You know, if you don't have the actors, I don't care what you do, it's not going to work. So you have people like my brother here on the Zoom call, you hand the ball off to them, and they got to do the dirty work. But I like a lot of stuff. I really never wanted to just like one thing, or I do documentaries and stuff like that. There's a lot of so as the years have grown up, the years have moved forward. I've several films have added a documentary element to, and we did that a lot with this film. I know it's just the all mixed up answer. It's just part of storytelling. It doesn't matter, what genre it is all for the purpose of telling the story.
So how did you end up taking these guys back into the past and keeping them the same age?
Well, a lot of times practical decisions end up being sometimes, a great artistical decision. We just didn't have the money to do the de-aging. Plus, I've seen other films where they try to find young actors, the younger version of actors, and they don't look alike. And you got to have, anytime somebody speaks, they got to put the other person's name in the sentence. And also, the last thing is that I believe that the first time it might be a shock to the audience, but they're smart and they will get it very soon that these guys are playing younger versions. They're younger versions of themselves as they see themselves 40 years ago.
It just worked. And as Spike, mentioned, it ends up being one of the various major strengths of the film and of the storytelling, as far as I'm concerned. Reading the script, it didn't seem jarring. It just didn't. And I'd be, at the time, I would be hard pressed to explain why it was not jarring, but it wasn't. And in the playing of the scenes, it made even more sense, because what I've realized is that part of the reason that it makes so much sense is because we are reliving in our current day lives, we are reliving in the moment our recollection of Norm, played by Chadwick. So it was this kind of sort of brilliant synchronicity or something. It all just came together.
So when you first read the script, I'm curious how you and Spike, how did it change over the course of time, working on this character, this extraordinary, explosive, angry character?
I'm going to take a little bit of exception to the description of myself as angry. I would certainly, that may be the resultant of what you see, but I'd prefer the word, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I would use the word tormented. There's a torment that has a tendency to manifest in these various ways. And so my job was to find the basis of that torment, which fundamentally the script gave me that in terms of the one specific thing that has been tormenting me all these years around Norm, but then the loss of my wife and the loss of my son. So my job was to kind of excavate that and find out, okay, what's the basis of this? One thing I'll tell you, as it relates to what may be viewed as an angry reaction in the film, and that is when the young kid comes in on crutches and is asking for money of the group. No, you gotta go. You gotta go, son. I'm good, man.
He's living on a bar in Vietnam. No, you gotta come get him the fuck out of here.
What that came from was two of my cousins who were Vietnam vets, the first two cats that I spoke with. And they both said that children in Vietnam were among the most dangerous of their adversaries, because you could walk up to a kid and say, you want some candy? Or the kid could come up to you and say, G.I., you have candy? And you engage this kid and he's wearing a bomb. He blows himself and you up. So my one cousin in particular said, I wasn't trying to, the kids were always potentially a danger to me. And I drew exactly from that, very specifically from my cousin telling me that, to feed part of my reaction in that particular scene.
So you're charting this character over the course of time, and you have to, play with you expertly play with the dynamics of him as he moves back in time, and as he's dealing with all of his different friends and his relationship, and with his son, Jonathan Majors. There's so much going on in the course of this character, and his politics are fascinating. Tell me about that too.
The short version around the politics is that I'm a man who's experienced a great deal of loss, my wife in childbirth, the estrangement of my son, which is another form of loss, the vilification that myself and a whole bunch of vets faced when we came back to America, and all of
baby
that.
Killers.
Go ahead, Spike. Go ahead.
They were called baby killers.
Yes, that's right. And spat on.
Yeah.
And spat on, man. In no uncertain terms, we're told, we do not appreciate you, right? So the totality, the cumulative degradation that I have experienced, loss of my wife, estrangement from my son, estrangement from the society that I went to war 3 times to protect, and I come back and I'm completely rejected. And the other thing about Paul, I volunteered. I wasn't drafted. I volunteered. So in the face of this sacrifice that I've made for this country that I love, I have, excuse my French, just been kicked in the ass over and over and over again. All of that results in a disenfranchisement and a disconnection, so that when this individual in 2015 comes along and says, I can make it better for you, I need to believe that. I needed to believe that, because I need a win, man. I just need a win. That's the basis of the political, of my vote for that individual, and the basis of my kind of quote unquote political, ethos.
When you're in the war and you got your guy to the left and your guy to the right, you depend on them. They depend upon you. And I mean, it's a cliche, but the bonds you make in wartime can never be broken. So I knew that. But at the same time, they all couldn't be lovey-dovey. So I thought Kevin Wilmot and I thought, what's the one thing we can do that could put a little chink in the armor, put a little flavor
up in there.
Flavor, and we kept this guy, you know, he voted for Agent Orange. And another thing people miss, I think, that hat is worn on not only the head of Paul in the film. That hat moves around.
So if I were to describe Paul as sort of Shakespearean and larger than life, as though he carries multitudes inside of him and represents something that has been contained, is that a fair? It's like all this unexpressed stuff has to come, you know, pouring out of him. Is that fair?
Wilsonian too. You got to put August Wilson.
Man, you took the words out of my mouth. I'm going to add, you know, the Shakespearean piece has become the thing that has resonated, but I took great care, and when I first started talking to the press, to say Wilsonian and Shakespearean.
Both.
And Shakespearean has you know, kind of resonated, but Wilsonian, August Wilson, in terms of the size, the magnitude of the characters that he writes and presents to the actors to excavate. You know, one of the most rewarding experiences that I had, if not the single most rewarding experiences that I had in the theater, was playing Harold Loomis in Joe Turner's Come and Gone. That's the play that Spike saw on Broadway. Yep. And here's a man who is completely torn up with what some people refer to as anger. But again, that's not what it is. Absolutely, there is turmoil. There's turmoil to the nth that I'm trying to fight my way through, sort my way through. And so from that standpoint, the depth of the torment inside of Harold Loomis, for instance, inside of Othello, any of the great tragic parts lives inside of Paul. And as I've said countless times at this point, actors kill to play a part like that.
Yeah, no, you must have seen it. You must have seen it on the page and almost salivated.
I did, and that's why. But then also, you know, I have to say this. It's a little weird to be sharing this interview with Spike because some of the things that I attribute to him as the director, I may be more comfortable saying if he were not here. But
go ahead.
He let me run, man. He let the actors run. You give him the ball and just get the ball out the way. I mean, just give him the ball and let him go to the hoop, man. Go to the bucket. Just go there. That was the basis of the relationship between actor and director. Again, as I've said countless times in the past, that does not mean that there were not disagreements or issues that we had to work through. There were. However,
what was her name? That movie, Brother's Gonna Work It Out.
Which one?
Willie Hutch did that song. Brother's gonna
work it out. Brother's gonna work it out. Willie Hutch, and it got worked out, which is actually yet another affirmation for, you know, who we are as workers and for the process. And I'm feeling now that Bloods is the bar for me. Now, I'm not naive enough to think that every part that comes along is going to present me with these kinds of challenges. But what I'm saying is the fact that I was able to meet that bar, and not only for my own satisfaction as a worker, but the fact that it's touched audiences in the way that it has touched them, is just an affirmation on top of an affirmation on top of an affirmation. And that's the bar for me going forward.
So the other thing that strikes me about this is that the actual shooting of the movie in the jungle, the war scenes, all of that must have been a real challenge. Spike, how tough was it?
Wasn't easy.
You're,
It
you
wasn't
were,
easy, but we were professionals. Whatever was there, snake, the heat,
Whatever is
you know,
there.
we had a job to do.
That's right. And also, you know, final analysis, you're built for this. You're built for it. You're built for it. And there were a couple of very, very critical elements, Anne. Spike and I spoke on set about how brilliant that crew was, men and women, hauling hundreds of pounds of equipment up and down those hills. Never a complaint. Huh? The Thai crew, yes. Hauling hundreds of pounds of equipment up and down those hills with never a complaint. I joked to Spike in Thai, they might be calling us all kind of, MFs, but there was never ever a complaint, and they always did their job. And I look at that,
Black GI.
right. So I looked at that as that was the bar for the work, because if they could do that, I could sure enough do my job. That's one thing. The second thing, and where I'm leading to with this, Anne, I want to say, yes, it was exhausting, and yeah, there were times when one was tired, but the principal dynamic that I think about in thinking about the work experience was that it was exhilarating. There's a scene right after the chopper crashes, and Norm and I run to a rock and we start to fire off at the enemy. And we filmed that portion of the scene. Then it was the portion of the scene that involved my comrades. And then we filmed them getting out of the chopper, escaping the downed chopper, and running to another part of the terrain. And I got to watch that because we filmed it in two separate pieces. And I'm telling you, Anne, it almost brought tears to my eyes, because these cats, as we were working in the moment, they were so daggone heroic. They were so heroic. And I'm thinking a number of things at that point. I'm thinking, we don't get to do this. We have the opportunity to do this in this film. Two, it's not fanciful. It's something that is true to life, because the brothers, for the most part, the light has never shone on the brothers and what their contribution was. And here was a moment that kind of encapsulated that for me. The fact that I got to watch, just as a worker, I got to watch my fellow workers doing that scene was completely exhilarating and enervating. So I guess that's a long-winded answer to your question about how was it. In the final analysis, despite the difficulties and the challenges, it was enervating.
And I would like to jump in real quick, because we got to talk about Chadwick. Chadwick did not tell anyone outside his inner circle that he was terminally ill. And after it happened, I understood why. He did not want to be treated differently. This great description, the scene you're talking about, Chadwick had to run 50-yard things. And I was telling him, look, my brother, you got to run like fucking Usain Bolt.
Because we didn't know he was sick.
Now, think about this, man. If I know this guy, if I know my brother's terminally ill, how can I tell him to run as fast as ever? He can't do that. But Chadwick understood that. That's why we discuss it, but this is why I feel it. He, also another thing, we've been shooting like how many weeks already?
Oh, I don't know, 6.
6 weeks. So he's coming in, we're rolling now. We've been shooting 6 weeks, so we're tight knit. And so you want to get going like I'm a prima donna, look, I played Jackie Robinson, Thurgood Marshall, James Brown. I'm the Black Panther, so I ain't running. He was like, I'm here to do my job. And whatever you tell me to do, Spike, I'll do it. But that was a lot of running that scene.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
But you
Well,
cast
hold on.
him. You cast him. He was perfect.
And
Yeah.
a lot of takes, and I know the actors weren't loving me at that moment.
Not true, man. No, not true. Not
Right?
true.
Come on now, man.
No, man.
You
Look,
got a yes, Mike.
listen, let me just say something. There's a scene after after I've accidentally done what I did with Norm, and I run up on Clark's character, Otis.
Mhm.
And I said to you, let me do it, Spike. He didn't use the what do you call the stunt guy. I ran as fast as I could. Obviously, if it had been 20 years ago, it would have been that much faster. But I ran as fast as I could, and the struggle and the obstacle of being exhausted, it all played into the scene. And guess what? The director said, go for it. He wasn't going to shoot it from the back using the stunt guy. He shot me with all of my struggle and all of these things, and innovating, and very affirming for the work process, for the experience of making this work.
And also, to piggyback again on my brother here, the scene before Friendly Fire, you accidentally
Yes.
shot.
I didn't want to say it in case anybody hadn't seen certain people.
It's too late now.
Everybody has seen the movie at this
All right,
point.
fair enough.
So your mental state too is like
I'm effed up.
Yeah.
I'm out of my mind with grief, etc.
Mhm.
But I think what we're talking about is the relationship between Spike as director and the relationship that he had with his actors, and how you don't necessarily think of it in terms of trust, but that's what it is. That's what it is. And everybody
go ahead.
is doing their job and doing it to the absolute best of their ability. And in addition to which, your director is not stopping you. Your director is encouraging you. It doesn't get any better than that. The director's not saying, oh man, can you try? Can you do? No, he's embracing everything that we're doing and including it in the in the footage, in the final cut of the film.
And let me end it right here. Another thing that's overlooked when you're shooting on location, halfway around the world, you get tight.
Amen.
Where's you gonna go?
All you got.
You're on location, tight.
All you have is each other, period. Which is
well, the end results show what you guys pulled off, and congratulations yet again. And thank you for being willing to indulge in Dwyer today after all this time. It's the longest Oscar season in the history of the universe, believe me.
Right.
Like my brother said, we were built for this.
We're built for this.
Built for it.
We're built for it, man.
Built for it.